All of the drinks that we're making in this series, and by the way, check the link to the other videos that are going up, are designed to be super easy to make. So I'm not using things like citrus fruit or specialist ingredients, or even really using any specialist equipment. There shouldn't be any reason why everyone who watches this video couldn't make these drinks today. The drink I'm going to make for you today is sort of based on a sour or a fizz, which would normally include lemon juice, but we're substituting lemon juice out for another ingredient that pretty much every house has, that being vinegar. Now, this is the most important ingredient in this drink because obviously the quality of vinegar varies dramatically between something like malt vinegar that you might put in your chips right up to high quality cider vinegars. Now, I've tried this cocktail with red wine vinegars, white wine vinegars, cider vinegars, sherry vinegars, balsamic vinegars. I would avoid using low quality vinegar. It's not going to taste that great. But anything that's of sort of reasonable quality that you've got hanging around should work just fine. And the vinegar really here is adding a little bit of acidity to the drink and also a little bit of the character from the product which the vinegar was based on originally. So in this case, I'm going to use the sherry vinegar. And we'll get a little bit of that nutty, fruity sherry characteristic coming through. Other ingredients, we're going to need some whiskey. You could use a rum if you wanted to, or even a brandy, but this drink's going to work best with a whiskey. I'm using a relatively inexpensive blended whiskey here, which is the sort of thing that hangs around in most people's liquor cabinets at home. You're going to need egg white. It's not essential, but it does make the drink that little bit better. Some granulated sugar, and soda water. And again, soda water is not necessarily something that everyone keeps in their cupboard, and it is optional. If I'm going to make a sort of longer fizz style drink here today, but if I'd left the soda water out, what I'd be left with is actually a sour instead, and it's perfectly acceptable to make this drink without the soda and serve it as a sour style cocktail. In addition to that, you're going to need some cubed ice. You're also going to need a glass. Now, I'm making the fizz, so it's a long glass if you're making a sour, a short glass, or even a coupe or martini style glass if you're going to serve it straight up. You'll need something to measure with. You could use a jigger or an egg cup. I am using this little port glass. And then finally, a cocktail shaker. If you don't have a cocktail shaker, not a problem. You can use pretty much any container that seals well. Today, I'm going to use a flask, an insulated flask, but any kind of insulated drinks bottle, even a plastic sports bottle will work perfectly well. So to begin, we are going to start adding all of our ingredients to the shaker. So let's start with our whiskey. And we will put a double measure into the flask. Sugar, I'm going to put 1 heaped teaspoon. If you wanted to use sugar syrup and you have that in your house, that's absolutely fine. Probably want to go for around about 10 milliliters of sugar syrup. We're going to put the same amount of vinegar in there, so about 10 milliliters. Now, if you've done 2 measures of your whiskey, you want to do about a half or maybe a little bit less than a half measure of your vinegar. So, and give it a little bit of a swirl just to help some of that sugar dissolve. And if you've got time and patience, then you can get a spoon in there and give it a stir, because what we don't want is that granulated sugar sitting in the bottom of the shaker, and that's more likely to happen once we've had ice and shaken it. So it's better to do this while it's warm. Give it a little bit of a stir through to dissolve that sugar in. Next, we'll put our egg white in. That's about half of an egg white I'm popping in there. And we are ready, I think, to add the ice. 3 cubes of ice should do it. Good thing about using insulated flasks like this is they're actually going to help get that drink really nice and cold and keep it cold. You could even make this drink, put the lid on it, and then take it out with you if you wanted to. So, clip the lid on and shake. It should be nice and cold now. So we'll put ice in this glass. Lid off. Now this could be interesting because this isn't designed to strain liquids, but let's give it a go. And then we just top up with soda water. Like I say, you could drink this as a sour. I mean, look. That's a really perfectly tasty drink right there. You get that acidity from the sherry. You really wouldn't know there's no lemon juice in there. There's a slight kind of tannin note as well, because that sherry, of course, has been aged in barrels. The whiskey's been aged in barrels, so you get that sort of nutty tannin dryness coming through. The sugar balances the vinegar really nicely. But I'm going to top up with soda because I think effervescence with that egg white is going to be really good too. Just watch that bloom up, like so. And you got yourself a really quite attractive looking drink there, I think. Could garnish it if you want to. I mean, you know, if you've got some herbs perhaps hanging around, you could stick a little sprig of rosemary in there, or thyme would be quite nice. But it doesn't need a garnish. I mean, look, it looks pretty good on it by itself. There you have it. Sherry, vinegar, fizz. And you know, people would pay money for being served that in a bar. There's nothing wrong with that drink whatsoever. And it's made with really very humble ingredients that pretty much every household has. Yeah, cheers.